name is Phileena, and I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I co-direct an international nonprofit. It's called Gravity. It's a center for contemplative activism. We focus on spiritual direction, contemplative retreats, and Enneagram consultations and workshops. So my husband and I do this work together, and his book, The Sacred Enneagram, is available, and then two of mine, Pilgrimage of a Soul and Mindful Silence. And so I really do see my work as spiritual direction, and I do that through one-on-one client work as well as teaching through retreats. I'm also a yoga instructor, and I see that as a spiritual practice and offering direction to others that way, and then through writing as well. So that's my work, but how did I get here? For the first 20 years, almost 20 years of my adult life, I co-directed another nonprofit that served among children of war and survivors of trafficking and children with HIV and AIDS in 13 cities of the majority world. I got my start with Mother Teresa and the Missionaries of Charity in Calcutta, and she had Mother had a deep impact on my life. Without ever saying the words contemplative activism, she embodied that and exuded that and really transmitted that to me. And in that work in the world, I was confronted with the worst of humanity, what we're capable of, the ways that we can harm one another, the ways that we neglect one another, the ways that we don't care for one another, the ways that we're destroying our planet. And it was in Freetown, Sierra Leone that I ended up having a really devastating crisis of faith, where all of my paradigms for understanding reality came crumbling down. When I came back to the States, I went into a legitimate dark night of soul. And I'm sure some of you have been there and know what I'm talking about. But that kind of darkness really had the effect of, it had the potential of destabilizing me. And I'd grown up in the church. My father was a pastor, and my whole life was devoted to God, but here I was questioning the very existence of God. And if there is a God, I'm not so sure God's good, because I wasn't seeing the goodness of God in the world. And so I was wrestling with those great, big, huge questions that some of us dare to ask. And after 2 years of that, not finding anyone in the church or in my family who could address these kinds of questions that were really shaking up my whole sense of reality. Who am I, and who is God, and who are you? I met Father Thomas Keating. And I owe him my life. And he introduced me to the contemplative tradition and a practice called centering prayer. And now I had a way to show up in reality with all of my doubts and all of my questions, all of my fears, all of my concerns, all of it could show up and be present to ultimate reality. So it was through that, that introduction, and then that life-changing practice that opened me to a wellspring of life that fuels my work today, which is about uncovering our unconscious motivations that end up causing so much harm in our world. And so contemplation for me is simply about waking up and taking responsibility for our collective life together.